All right, let's jump right into one of the most perplexing disappearances you will ever hear about. We're going to piece together all the evidence, from the official police reports to secret private journals, to try and solve a case that, by all accounts, should have been completely impossible.
And, that's not just some dramatic flair for the newspapers. This is a direct quote from the man in charge of the whole facility, Dr. Lyman Waite. When the person running the secure hospital flat out tells the press the situation is impossible, we're dealing with something way beyond a typical missing person case.
So, let's start right there with the hard facts. What do we actually know for sure about the morning Charles Dexter Ward just, vanished from the face of the earth?
Check this out. This is a classic locked room mystery. The room's on the 3rd floor, it's locked tight from the inside. The single window has solid iron bars, totally untouched. And yet, the patient isn't there. The only thing left behind was this strange, deeply unpleasant chemical smell in the hallway. That's the first clue that just doesn't fit a simple escape.
Okay, so to even begin to understand what happened, we need to know the man at the center of it all. Who exactly was Charles Dexter Ward? And, maybe more importantly, who did he become?
See, by all accounts, Ward was a totally normal, if maybe a bit intense, young man. His family doctor described him as having a sensitive, scholarly temperament. He was really into history, especially the history of his own hometown. Nothing here screams guy who's about to dematerialize from a locked room.
And this is where the story takes a very sharp, very dark turn. While digging through his family history, Ward stumbles upon this ancestor, Joseph Curwen, a guy who fled the Salem witch trials not because he was a victim, but because even the other settlers were terrified of him. He became this dark legend around Providence before he too disappeared. This discovery, it changes everything. And you can literally see the transformation here. It's chilling. The family doctor's notes paint this awful picture. Ward's healthy interest in history twists into this dangerous obsession with the occult. Get this, even his handwriting physically changes, morphing to look just like his 18th century ancestors. He goes from a stable, healthy scholar to this gaunt, paranoid mess.
So, to figure out what happened to Charles Ward in 1928, we actually have to go back in time. We have to understand the man whose ghost, you could say, completely consumed him.
Let's dig into a document that was buried for a long, long time, a secret report from a kind of vigilante committee, a group of Providence's most important citizens who decided that Joseph Curwen needed to be stopped, law or no law. And just listen to the language they used. A scene from hell itself. These were the pillars of the community, not a bunch of superstitious farmers. They weren't describing a normal crime. They were describing something they believed was fundamentally evil.
And the details of what they found, it's just mind-bending. Under Curwen's farm, there was this massive network of tunnels, pits filled with some foul goo, jars with parts of creatures that shouldn't exist, and caged things, living things that looked like twisted, half-formed versions of people. And one of them spoke in the voice of a man who had been dead for 2 years. The raiders were so horrified, they didn't just arrest him, they torched the entire place and sealed the tunnels for good.
Okay, now let's jump forward again to 1928. The police are now searching this private lab that Charles Ward had built in a little bungalow, which, by the way, was suspiciously close to the site of Curwen's old farm. And the police report, it reads like something out of science fiction. This wasn't some kid's chemistry set, it was a fortress. They found vats with bone fragments, a library of forbidden books, and, here's the really weird part, a cabinet with over 100 jars of a fine powder, each labeled with a person's initials and a date. And this is when we first hear about a mysterious accomplice, a man the neighbors only knew as Dr. Allen.
So when you put the two crime scenes right next to each other, the parallels are just undeniable. The tunnels, the vats, the occult experiments, it becomes pretty clear, right? Ward wasn't just studying Curwen, he was recreating his work. He was continuing it.
So the police were completely stumped. They're looking for a simple accomplice, but the family doctor, Dr. Willett, who was a man of both science and history, he knew this was something else entirely. So he starts his own investigation, and what he finds, well, it changes everything.
By going through Ward's notes and deciphering these ancient texts, Dr. Willett figures out the true purpose of the lab. Those essential salts? They were human remains, cremated ashes.
Kerwin's books described a horrifying form of necromancy where you could use these salts to bring the dead back, just for a little while, not to live again, but to torture their secrets out of them.
So this was the first huge question Dr. Willett had to answer. The neighbors saw this Dr. Allen guy, this older, pale man coming and going all the time. Who on earth was he?
And the answer, which Willett wrote down in his private journal, is pure nightmare fuel. Charles Ward had actually succeeded. He had found the ashes of his own ancestor and brought him back from the dead. Dr. Allen was Joseph Kerwin. But, okay, wait. Just think about this for a second. If the real Joseph Kerwin was walking around Providence's Dr. Allen, then who or what did the Ward family have committed to the insane asylum?
The final awful truth comes from Kerwin himself in a letter the police found later. He admits that the man in the asylum was him. He'd done some kind of ritual to swap bodies, to seize control of his own descendant. The person who vanished from that locked room wasn't Charles Ward at all. It was the 200-year-old sorcerer who had stolen his body. Charles Ward was already long gone.
Now, in the end, Dr. Willett actually confronted this entity in the catacombs under the lab, and using Kerwin's own magic against him, somehow managed to destroy him. But a truth like that is just way too monstrous for the official record.
So, what did the authorities do? They created a cover story. A simple, tragic case of murder-suicide. And the doctor? Oh, he just went mad from the shock of finding it all. The supernatural stuff, the history, the true horror of what happened, it was all deliberately and officially buried. Case closed.
And they made damn sure it would stay buried. This number, right here, says it all. You don't use 20 tons of quicklime and concrete to seal a normal crime scene. You do that to entomb something you believe should never, ever be found again.
But here's the thought that just kind of lingers, doesn't it? Dr. Willett found out that Kerwin wasn't working alone. He was part of a whole network of these necromancers with partners across the globe. So, yeah, Kerwin might be gone, reduced to dust. But what about his partners? What horrors were they calling up? And you have to wonder, are they still out there?